retired? How many retired people do we have in here today? Don't be ashamed. Raise your hand. Few. How many of you wish you were retired? Even more people wish they were retired. You know, I don't blame you at all for that. I think the reasons for wanting to retire are like obvious. Like you won't have to go to a job that you hate anymore. You know, you'll have more time when you're retired to do things that you enjoy doing. You know, one of the cool things that I've noticed in life is that some people get to retire early, right? Some people get early retirement. And I have a friend who's a state police officer, and he got to retire at a pretty young age, in his 40s, I believe he was when he retired. And I always envied him. I thought, man, that would be awesome, you know, to be able to retire that young. My dad got early retirement. He worked for the railroad. He worked for Conrail back when Norfolk Southern came in and bought him out. And all the guys that were in their late 50s on up, they pushed them into early retirement. And I envied him for that. Like, man, I don't know, I think he was 55, 56 years old. He got to retire. But that's awesome, you know, with a full pension and everything. And when I see that happening to people, I see people getting that opportunity to retire from their work early. Like, it makes me want to do that. You know, it makes me want to find some way to be able to do that. But you know what I found out this week is that the majority of people living in the United States can't retire. The majority of people in the United States, I read one study that showed that 30% of people age 55 and older have absolutely nothing saved toward retirement. They can't retire. And of the remaining people, 26% of them have less than $50,000 saved through an IRA or 401k or anything like that, so that they can't retire either. So that means 54% of people living in America aren't able to retire. They're going to have to work until they die. And I feel like maybe I'm one of those people. Because I'm 44 years old, about to turn 45, I have absolutely nothing saved for retirement. Maybe you're like that as well. And maybe we have to just accept that we're going to have to work till we die. And if that's the case, then we don't have the luxury of putting off the enjoyment of life for later. We don't have the luxury of waiting to enjoy life when we get retired. You know what's funny about that? Is that in reality, nobody does. Nobody actually has that luxury. I want to keep going with this series, The Good Life, today, because it's occurred to me that everybody wants a good life. Everybody wants a life that they enjoy living, right? But very few people know how to get that life. Very few people even know what that is, right? But the good news is that the wisest man who ever lived, the guy named Solomon, he was the third king of Israel, the wisest man who ever walked the earth other than Jesus Christ himself. He applied his mind to understand this thing called the good life. He figured out what it is and how to get it, and he wrote it all down in a book of the Bible called Ecclesiastes. And we've been walking through the book of Ecclesiastes. You know, I found out that there's many preachers who never preach this book. They stay away from it because it seems like it opposes other things in the Christian faith, and they just don't know what to do with it. Well, we've jumped in with both feet, haven't we? Today I want to show you what Solomon found out about putting off the enjoyment of life till later. We're going to be in Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verses 1 through 10. I don't want to really read the whole first section of it. I just want to look at one verse that really emphasizes his point through this section. In verse 2, he says, "All share a common destiny. The righteous and the wicked, the good and the bad, the clean and the unclean, those who offer sacrifices and those who do not. As it is with the good, so with the sinful. As it is with those who take oaths, so with them who are afraid to take them." So remember, Solomon's like a scientist. He makes observations, and then he draws a conclusion about the nature of those things. And here he observes something that you all have observed also, if you've been alive any amount of time, and that's that all people share the same exact destiny. Our life under the sun, our life in the body, will end the same way for us as it does for everyone else. It ends with death. It ends with physical death, whether you're good or bad, whether you're rich or poor, whether you're wise or whether you're foolish, whether you're powerful or whether you're weak, you're going to have the same destiny. Your life under the sun will end the same way as everyone else's will. And here's his big point, is that none of us are getting out of here alive. I thought about putting that point up there, like that might scare somebody, like, what, you got a gun or something? You know? But none of us are getting out of this life under the sun alive. None of us are getting off of this planet alive. And when you think about that, when you look at death in the face, when you look at the impending certainty of your own mortality square in the eye, it can be a little bit unsettling. It can be a little bit unsettling. And I thought about it this week. I thought it's a lot like standing on a stretch of train tracks. And you're standing on a stretch of train tracks, and if you've ever been walking the railroad tracks or anything, you know you can start to just hear the rumble of something in the distance when the train starts coming, right? And you know, I got to get off of the tracks, right? Because the train's coming. But this looking death in the eye, coming face to face with this impending certainty of our own mortality is a lot like standing on those train tracks and hearing just the faintest rumble in the distance, moving to step off of the track and realizing you're chained to it. There's nowhere you can go. There's nowhere you can go. There's a few different ways that people respond to this when they come face to face with this reality of death. One way that people respond to it is they ignore it. They just ignore it. They say, I'm just going to live my life and not worry about it. They're standing on the tracks and the train's coming, and they just put their earbuds in and turn the music all the way up. Right? I'm just going to tune out the noise of this train as long as I possibly can. Another way that people respond to the impending certainty of their own mortality is they become afraid. They even may start to panic, and they start thinking of anything that they can possibly do to delay the train from getting to them. They know that the train is coming, but they try to do anything they can to delay it. They'll get on the phone. They'll find the conductor's number, and they'll start talking to the conductor, right? God. They'll try to make a deal with him. They'll beg him, like, please, just let me live a little bit longer, or I'll make a deal with you, right? If you give me 15 more years, like, I'll live the rest of my life for you. People in their panic, they start getting real healthy, right? They start eating healthy. They start exercising. They start going to the doctor regularly and getting checkups and everything. And there's nothing wrong with that. We should take care of our bodies really well. But when a lot of people do that out of a sense of panic because they can't escape the coming train, so they're just trying to delay it as long as they can. And so people ignore it. They become afraid and they panic. Other people then respond another way. They become depressed. They just become depressed when they think about this, and they think, well, what's the point? Like, what's the point of living, right? They just kind of check out of life before they even die. None of those things are what Solomon suggests doing in the face of death. Here's what he suggests in verse 7. Go, eat your food with gladness and drink your wine with a joyful heart, for God has already approved what you do. Always be clothed in white, and always anoint your head with oil. Enjoy life with your wife whom you love, all the days of this meaningless life that God has given you under the sun, all your meaningless days, for this is your lot in life and in your toilsome labor under the sun. Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might, for in the realm of the dead where you are going, there is neither working nor planning, nor knowledge, nor wisdom. Verse 7, the word that he used to start out this passage is really, really important. Remember, what was that? It was a G word. Go. He said go, right? There's a sense of urgency about this. He starts out with this sense of urgency. He's like, go, enjoy your life. Like, have some urgency about this thing. Why? In verse 8, he talked about your life being meaningless and your days being meaningless. There, it doesn't mean empty or vacuous or without value, which he means that sometimes by life under the sun, by the pursuits, the things that we chase in this life are meaningless and that they're without value. Things like the pursuit of money is the end goal of life and things like that are vacuous. But here what he means is that it's fleeting. Fleeting. Your days are short. Your life is short. You need to accept that. In verse 10, he says, in the realm of the dead, there's no work, there's no planning, there's no knowledge. When you're dead, there's no wisdom. When the life under the sun, when you die physically, is in the past, and there's no returning to it. Now we know there's an afterlife. There's a life with God in heaven. But Solomon isn't concerned about that. He's concerned about wringing the most enjoyment out of the life that we have here on earth. And the things that we can enjoy, that God has given us to enjoy on this planet, can only be enjoyed while we're alive. And that time is very, very short. So he's saying, get to the business of enjoying life while you still have time. Have a sense of urgency about it. And the bottom line is this: is a good life doesn't come by putting it off till tomorrow. It doesn't come by waiting to enjoy your life tomorrow. The good life comes by seizing the opportunities that you have to enjoy your life today. It comes by seizing the God-given opportunities you have to enjoy the things God has put in your life today. You know, the absolute worst lie that prevents us from getting this and it causes a whole lot of disruption in our life is the lie that says there's time, that there's still time, or worse, that there's a lot of time. That lie causes us to put a whole lot of things off. It causes us to put off the question of our salvation. You know, you have that nagging thing. Like you hear the message about God offering forgiveness through the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ to all who receive it by faith, but you're not sure if you're there. But it's a nagging question in your mind, and you keep thinking, I'll put that off till tomorrow, or I'll put that off till next week, or next month, or the next time I go to church. But there isn't time. We think there's time. That's an urgent question. And when your eyes close in death, there's no more time to deal with that issue. Another thing it causes us to put off is dealing with our physical health. It's not wrong to go to the doctor and to eat healthy and to exercise. We should take care of our bodies. If we're doing that out of a sense of panic, maybe that's the wrong thing. But we end up we tell ourselves there's time. I have that nagging thing in my mind that says there's something not right in my body. I think there's still time. I want to go hunting this week. I'll go to the doctor next week, reschedule that appointment. There's time, I'm still young. What's going to happen to me? And then it causes us, that lie that there's still time causes us to put off enjoying life. It causes us to put off enjoying life till tomorrow. We tell ourselves that I just got to get through this busy stretch. I just got to get through this busy year. I just got to get past this busy part of my life. And then I'll get to the business of enjoying life. But the problem with all of this is that none of us can know when we're going to die. We all think we're going to live to be 90. Like, whatever the life expectancy is, we all assume that we're going to reach that. And let me tell you something else. Even if you do reach it, even if you do make it to that age where you're able to retire, there's a whole lot of things in life you're not going to be able to enjoy doing at that point in your life. Once you're old enough. Amen. You have a whole lot less opportunity to enjoy life as you get older. And I want to jump into now Ecclesiastes chapter 11, where Solomon's going to address this. You young people, all you people need to listen up. He says in chapter 11, verse 7 through 8, light is sweet, and it pleases the eyes to see the sun, like it's good to be alive on the earth. However many years anyone may live, let them enjoy them all, right? The early ones and the late ones. But let them remember the days of darkness, for there will be many. Everything to come is meaningless. The time is past to enjoy your life on the earth once you have expired physically. You who are young, be happy while you are young, and let your heart give you joy in the days of your youth. Follow the ways of your heart and whatever your eyes see. But know that for all of these things, God will bring you into judgment. So then, banish anxiety from your heart and cast off the troubles of your body, for youth and vigor are meaningless. And here again, by meaningless, he means fleeting, short. Your youth, your vigor, it isn't going to last. One day you're going to turn around and you're going to wonder where it went. So his counsel, his wise counsel is to throw off the things that are holding you back, right? He says throw it off. Throw off anything that's holding you back from seizing the opportunities you have to enjoy life today. In verse 9, I love what he said there. He said, follow the ways of your heart and everything that your eye sees. But remember, for all these things, God will bring you into judgment. What he's saying is if the opportunity to do something you want to do, something that would make you happy to do it, if that's in front of you, like you can see it, right? Your eye sees it and your heart wants it. He's saying seize it. If you can see it, then seize it. Reach out and take it. But, there's always a but. Remember that not everything your heart wants is good. Not everything your heart wants is pleasing to God. That advice, follow your heart. Follow your heart. Take it alone is really, really, really bad advice. That's like the exact opposite of wisdom. It is the height of folly. It is the height of foolishness. Jeremiah said in chapter 17, verse 9, this is one of the big problems with the nation of Judah right before they were destroyed. It said your heart is deceitful above all things. Right? Your heart, there's stuff coming from your heart, from your flesh, right? Inside of you, there's desires that aren't good. They're not pleasing to God. But see, when you take that advice to follow the ways of your heart, and then you temper it with the next piece of that verse, that remember that for all these things God will bring you into judgment, now you have wisdom. Now you have wisdom. See, because God can't be mocked. This keeps coming up. Somebody needs to hear it. You will reap what you sow. If you sow to please the flesh, then from the flesh you will reap destruction. If you sow to please the Spirit, then from the Spirit you will reap life. If you seize the opportunity to do something you want to do, and that thing is displeasing to God, you can be certain that you will invite destruction into your life. And that is the exact opposite of a good life. It's the exact opposite of a life that you enjoy living. So what do? You test it. You test every desire of your heart. You test every opportunity that you have to fulfill that desire. You test it all by the Word of God. Everything we run through the filter of God's Word. And whatever passes through is good, and we hold on to that. But whatever gets caught by the filter is evil, it's wrong, it's bad, and we reject it, regardless of how we feel about it. But if you run what you want and the opportunity to do that thing through the filter of God's Word, and it passes the test and it's something that's good, then here's what you need to do. The advice from the wisest man on earth is to go for it and don't look back. Go for it and don't look back. I love in verse 10, he said, banish anxiety from your heart. Banish anxiety from your heart. He's saying throw off the fears that hold you back from seizing the good things that God has given you in life and enjoying them. Throw off the fears. Throw off the what ifs. What if this? What if that? Throw that stuff off. You know, there's no reward in life without risk. In verse 10, he says, cast off the troubles of your body. I think he's saying throw off the physical limitations that hold you back from enjoying life, especially when you're young. Throw off that thing that says, I'm too tired today. Throw off the thing that says, I'm too sore today to do this. You know why that's important to do when you're young? Because if you can't figure out how to overcome your physical limitations when you're young, it's going to be a whole lot harder to do it when you're older. If you get in the habit of saying, I'm too tired to enjoy my life today, I'm too sore to enjoy my life today when you're 20, you're probably not going to be able to do it when you're 40. And guess what? If you can't figure out how to do it when you're 70, you're going to have a really hard time when you're 80. Old age doesn't stop happening. If you learn how to do it now, it'll be a whole lot easier later. But one thing that occurred to me as I was studying through this week is that Solomon isn't just talking about like bucket list stuff. you know? He's not talking about like running marathons and jumping out of airplanes. That stuff, there's nothing wrong with that stuff. And if that's something you enjoy doing and you have the opportunity to do it, then you should go for it, right? But some of those things have an age limit. There's a definite window of opportunity for those things in life that when it passes, it is gone. Your body, it isn't a matter of just being too sore. It's a matter of my body just doesn't work that way anymore. Like this is a suicide mission to do this thing, you know? At a certain age. But there's some things in life that have no age limit on them. And we have an opportunity to enjoy these things every day of our life under the sun. If you're following along on the outline, every day has simple things to enjoy. Every day of your life has simple things in it to enjoy. Back to verse 7 of chapter 9 where we started. It says, "Go, eat your food with gladness and drink your wine with a joyful heart, for God has already approved what you do." He says, he's saying enjoy these simple things like food and drink. Yes, even wine. It's not a sin to drink wine. It is a sin to get drunk on wine. It is a sin for an alcoholic to drink wine because you won't stop with one. You will inevitably get drunk, and you should know that, right? If you're an alcoholic, it's a sin for you to take one sip. But if you're not, it's not. It's a sin to get drunk. But whatever, you have food and drink, fellowship with people in your life that you love, a good warm home, the beauty of nature, whatever other good simple things in your life, God put them in your life for you to enjoy. And you have the opportunity to enjoy those things every single day. But one of the big reasons that this passage gets at why we don't enjoy these simple things in life is because we feel guilty about it. We feel guilty about enjoying them, right? We feel guilt sometimes because we have more than other people do. We have more. You might have more stuff. You might have more time, more opportunity to enjoy it. You might have better health that enables you to enjoy it more, and so you feel guilty. And I think some of this is an unintended effect of preaching through the last, 50, 100 years in this country, where you've been told over and over again that we're the wealthiest nation on earth, and therefore you should get up off your moldy cash and give to support people and to help feed hungry people in the world. And an unintended effect of that's true. Like you should be willing to give sacrificially out of what God's given you, but at the same time, there's an unintended effect that comes from that we feel guilty for having more, right? I know I felt that myself. So we have this guilt that prevents us from enjoying these simple things. I think another guilt that we have, another source of that guilt is that we feel, again, like we're being materialistic in some way. Materialism is the pursuit of stuff, of material things as the end goal of life. That is a meaningless pursuit. That is a vacuous, empty pursuit that will leave you empty at the end of your life. And Solomon dealt with that at length through this book. But it doesn't mean that material things in and of themselves are bad. It's the pursuit of them as the end goal of life that is bad. See, it's good and it's right to enjoy the stuff that God's put in your life. Did you catch that last part of the verse? He said, God already approves what you do. God already approves what you do. That means if God put something good in your life, if he gave you something good, it came with the permission to enjoy it. It came with the permission to enjoy it. And if God gave you the permission to enjoy the things he's put in your life, then you got to give yourself permission to enjoy it now. I want to tell you, don't feel guilty for the gift. I felt guilty for God's gifts a lot of my Christian walk. Whatever God gave you came with the permission to enjoy. And if you feel guilty for something God's put in your life, the guilt isn't coming from God, it's coming from you. If it wasn't ill-gotten. If you want to have the good life, a life that you enjoy living, you got to seize the opportunity to enjoy the simple things that God's put in your life today, as if today is the first, last, and only day that you have to do it. Second thing is that every day is an occasion for joy. We got to get this in our head. Every single day is an occasion for joy. Go back to verse 8. Always be clothed in white. Always be clothed in white. And always anoint your head with oil. See, in Solomon's day, in Old Testament times, people would put on all white clothes, and they would put perfumed oil on their head when they went to some special occasion, right? Something like a wedding, something like a family reunion, or some holiday, some feast day. And what they were saying by doing that, by putting on white and by putting perfumed oil on their head, they're saying, this day is an occasion for joy, and I'm going to this thing to enjoy myself. Today is my day. That's what they were saying. And what this is saying is to make every day a special occasion. Treat every single day of life that you have under the sun as a special occasion. This is a day that is an occasion for joy, and I'm going to enjoy myself. If you want to have the good life, you have to seize each and every day that you have under the sun as a special occasion for joy. And then the third thing every day has is every day has relationships to enjoy. Every single day under the sun has relationships to enjoy. Go back to verse 9. Enjoy life with your wife, whom you love, all the days of this meaningless life that God has given you under the sun. Again, meaningless means fleeting here. It means short. There's not much time, so get to it. The most important relationship that we have under the sun is the relationship that we have with the person that we're married to. This may come as a shock to you, but one of God's big intended purposes with marriage is to make your life better. It's to make your life more enjoyable. That was God's intended purpose. It wasn't good for man to be alone. Our son got married on Saturday. Seems like it was a month ago. But Saturday he got married, and it was a really beautiful ceremony. Like really spiritual, great. And they stood there and they exchanged their vows, and they said all the stuff, like all these professions of love that will never die, and all these expectations of finding total satisfaction in the arms of this other person, all the days together that they have of life. And I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about all the joy and all the hope that there is in that moment. This expectation of this life. It's going to be like better and more enjoyable with this person you're married to. And then I thought about all the couples I know who've had that exact same moment, and now they're completely miserable with the person that they're with. And that's a tragic thing. I think Solomon would say that that's a grievous evil. It's a horrific tragedy. It's something that happens under the sun, but it's reality. It's a reality. And if we ever gave you the picture of marriage as being something that's real easy to navigate, something that's easy to walk through, something that's easy to thrive in, I apologize for that, because it isn't for most people. The reality is that for most people, marriage doesn't make their life better. It doesn't make their life better. For a lot of people, it makes their life different. Not necessarily better. For other people, it makes their life a whole lot worse. And the reason why that happens, I think one of them is that for a marriage to make your life better, to give you a life that you enjoy living more, it's going to cost you something. It's going to cost you something each and every day. There's parts of you that are going to have to die, right? The selfish parts, right? They have to die. Every single day, we have to put them to death. And the biggest part of us that has to die is the part of us that refuses to forgive. The part of us that refuses to give. When they passed the ring to me earlier in Nick's ceremony to pray over it, that's what I did. That's what I prayed for. And I felt kind of bad praying for this. But I see the other end of these marriages, right? I said, God, just give them a spirit of forgiveness for one another, right? Hate to darken a marriage with that, but you're going to need it. I think that part of ourself that refuses to do that, that part of ourself that wants to hold on to to hold on to everything that he or she said 5, 10, 15, 50 years ago that hurt us in some way, and continually holds on to that, to turn it over and over and over in our head, so that our heart becomes harder and harder and harder toward the person we're married to. That part of us has to die. We have to hand that over to Jesus and allow him to nail that to the cross and be put to death. I think that the willingness to forgive the person that you're married with is the single most important virtue that there is, in order not to just survive a marriage, but to thrive in it. And when I see two couples that married that had that moment at the altar, like our son did, and 10 years down the road they hate each other, it's always because one of them is refusing to forgive the other one. And I can understand that. I can understand that with worldly people. I can understand that with people who aren't believers in Jesus Christ. But I have a really hard time understanding that with Christian couples. A really hard time. Like if you're a believer in Jesus Christ, there's absolutely no reason why you can't forgive the person that you're with. Like there's two reasons. One is you have the ability. You have the ability to forgive. Some people say they can't forgive. What was done was so bad that they can't, but that's a crock. That's a crock, and I'm not going to co-sign that. Because God, if you've received the forgiveness that God was offering you through faith in Jesus Christ, forgiveness that you didn't deserve, you have a model for forgiveness. You know what that looks like. The world doesn't, but you do. And not only that, God gave you His Spirit. And His Spirit pours a continuous river of love and grace in your heart that you can direct toward anybody, anytime that you want to. When Christians refuse to forgive, it's never because we can't. I don't care what anybody says or what anybody did to you. It isn't because you can't forgive, it's because you won't. It's because you're not willing to. You're not willing to let go of your anger toward that person until they've paid what they owe you in full. You become judge, jury, and executioner. But see, that's never right. Because not only do you have the ability to forgive, you also have the responsibility to forgive. As a believer in Jesus Christ. See, forgiveness, when you receive God's forgiveness, it's like me giving you a quarter. Right? You can't say, I only want the head side of that quarter. You got to take heads and tails. You can't split it that way. It's the same whenever you receive forgiveness from God. You receive both sides of the coin. The coin comes with the ability and it comes with the responsibility to forgive. And you might not know this. You might not know this. But when you receive the forgiveness that God was offering you through faith in Jesus Christ, dying on the cross in your place, you permanently gave up your right to withhold forgiveness from anybody else. You might struggle with that. You might have to work through that. But don't tell yourself that you have a right to withhold it ever, because you don't. You didn't deserve that forgiveness that God gave you. Your spouse might not deserve it either. And somebody else who did something wrong to you might not deserve it either. But you have to forgive them just the same. I've heard it said that a happy marriage is a union of two forgivers. A happy marriage is a union of two forgivers. There's no happiness in marriage without that. Doesn't mean that you don't get mad when someone in that close of a relationship with you does something slimy, something bad, something wrong that hurt you in some way. It doesn't mean you don't get angry about that. I don't think there's anything we can do to stop ourselves from feeling that initial anger. But what it does mean is that when you become angry at that person, it means that you choose at some point to release them from your anger without having to pay for the debt. Because that's what God did for you. If you want to have a good life, you got to seize your opportunity to enjoy the relationships you have under the sun. And that means seizing the opportunity to forgive the people that you're in a relationship with as often as you must, as if today is the first, last, and only day that you have to do it. Let me just end with this. Every day has relationships to enjoy. Every day has activities. Every day has activities to enjoy. Look at verse 10 of chapter 9. Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might. He's talking about your hobbies. He's talking about your recreational activities. But you know what really blows my mind about this? He's talking about your job.
He's talking about your work. Like, we spend over a third of our life at work. Over a third of our waking hours. Some people a lot more. Some people approaching half or even more than that of your life. Your waking hours are spent at your job. Like, I think there's two reasons we don't enjoy our jobs so much. I think one is that we don't take the time to enjoy the fruit of our labor. Like, if you don't enjoy the fruit of your labor, you won't enjoy your labor. But I think the reason here that I can see in this passage is that a lot of us don't enjoy our work because we don't work hard at it. We don't put our back into it. We do the absolute bare minimum that we can do. We go to work and we do it grudgingly. And here's the point of this, is that if you want to enjoy your work more, the work that you do, you have to do it with all your might. You got to put your back into it. You got to arm yourself with the purpose when you go to work of working as hard as you can to do the absolute best job that you can do. And when you do that, you will find that you will enjoy going to your job a whole lot more. Some of the most miserable jobs I ever had were jobs where I went to work and just had nothing to do, you know? Oh my goodness, I called it the mind number, you know? It's terrible. I hate that. If you want to have a good life, you got to seize your opportunity to enjoy the activities that God's given you to do under the sun, as if today is the first, last, and only day that you have to do them. But in everything we do, we have to remember one really, really important thing. Everything that our heart desires, everything that's good, is we have to do it in the fear of God. We have to do it all in the fear of God. Solomon's big conclusion about the meaning of life, at the very end of this book, he said this: "Now that all's been heard, here's the conclusion of the matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the duty of all mankind. For God will bring every deed into judgment, including every hidden thing, whether it is good or whether it is evil." Some people think that the message of the overarching message of Ecclesiastes is that life is meaningless. It's short and it's empty. It's without value. Everything. That isn't what Solomon's saying, and I think you can see that if you've been here through this series this whole time. Here's what he's saying: is everything in life under the sun is meaningless, except for enjoying your life in the fear of God. Amen. And that's the overarching message of this book. Everything in life is without value except this one thing: enjoying your life in the fear of God. If you fear God, you will avoid destroying your life. You will avoid destroying your life in the pursuit of things that are displeasing to him. If you fear God, you'll avoid depriving your life of the good things that God gives you to enjoy. Remember, he gives the ability to enjoy life to those who please him. And if you fear God, you'll avoid wasting your life in the pursuit of things that just don't matter. A good life is a life that you enjoy living. That's what it is. It's a life that you enjoy living. And you won't get that by putting it off till tomorrow. That isn't how it comes. You get it by seizing the opportunities you have to enjoy life today. Because today is the first and last and only opportunity you have to do that. Life is short. So get to enjoying it. Amen?
Amen.
Stand with me, God.